The rain hammered Memphis like a drummer gone rogue, each drop a beat against Emily Harper's apartment window. Inside her cramped studio, the glow of her laptop cast shadows on the peeling wallpaper, its blank document a silent taunt. At 32, Emily was a journalist teetering on the edge of ruin. Her last exposé, a botched piece on corporate fraud, had cost her credibility, her editor's trust, and most of her savings. She rubbed her temples, trying to coax words from a mind clouded by doubt, when her phone buzzed, slicing through the quiet. An unknown number. The message was short, cryptic. Elon Musk found something at Graceland. It could rewrite history. Meet me tomorrow, 10 p.m., Beale Street. Come alone. Emily's heart jolted. Musk? Graceland? The billionaire had been in town last week, supposedly touring Elvis Presley's mansion for personal interest, according to the Memphis Gossip Mill. Tabloids had spun wild tales. Alien tech hidden in the jungle room, secret tunnels under the estate, but Emily had dismissed them as clickbait for tourists. This message, though, felt different. It wasn't just the words, it was the urgency, the anonymity. Her gut, the same instinct that had once landed her a front-page byline at the Memphis Commercial Appeal, screamed to chase it. She leaned back in her chair, the creak of its worn springs echoing her unease. Graceland wasn't just a landmark to Emily, it was a ghost from her past. Her mother, Sarah Harper, had been a backup singer in Memphis during the 80s, part of the music scene that orbited Elvis's legacy like moths to a flame. Sarah's stories of late-night gigs and smoky studios had been Emily's bedtime tales, until Sarah walked out when Emily was 12, leaving behind a guitar pick and a scribbled note, "Find your own song." The memory burned, a wound that fueled Emily's drive to uncover truth, no matter how painful. If Musk had found something at Graceland, it could be the story to save her career. Or it could unravel her completely. Her phone buzzed again, jarring her. Another text from the same number, "Don't tell anyone. Lives are at stake." Emily's breath caught. She typed a reply, "Who are you?" But the message bounced back. Number blocked. Her pulse raced as she paced the room, her boots scuffing the worn hardwood floor. The apartment smelled of coffee and damp laundry, a reminder of how far she'd fallen from her days as a rising star in journalism. She stopped at the window, staring out at the neon haze of Memphis. This could be a prank, a trap, or the break she needed. Either way, she was done sitting still. The next night, Beale Street thrummed with life. Neon signs bled red and blue onto the wet pavement, and the air carried the wail of a saxophone from a street performer. Emily pulled her denim jacket tight against the drizzle, her dark hair plastered to her forehead. Tourists laughed, clutching beers and snapping selfies, while locals weaved through the crowd with practiced ease. She checked her phone, 9:58 p.m. Her stomach churned with a mix of excitement and dread. She'd spent the day digging into Musk's visit, but all she'd found were vague ex-posts and grainy photos of him leaving Graceland with a security detail. Nothing concrete. Nothing to explain why someone would risk texting her. At 10 p.m. sharp, a figure in a black hoodie brushed past her, slipping a folded note into her hand before melting into the crowd. Emily's fingers trembled as she opened it, the paper damp from the rain. Scrawled in black ink were the words, "Graceland's basement. Look for the symbol. You'll know it when you see it." Her mind spun. A symbol? In Graceland's basement? The mansion was a shrine to Elvis, every inch polished for tourists, but whispers of hidden rooms and secret passages had always lingered. Was Musk's discovery tied to Elvis's legacy, or was it something bigger, something that could rewrite history? Emily thought of her mother again, of the stories Sarah used to tell about Graceland's magic, its secrets. Had Sarah known something? Was that why she'd left? Emily tucked the note into her pocket, her resolve hardening. She wasn't just chasing a story, she was chasing answers. About Musk, about Graceland, about her own fractured past. She pushed through the crowd, ignoring the laughter and music, her boots splashing in puddles as she headed for her beat-up Honda Civic parked a block away. The rain had slowed to a mist, but the air felt heavy, charged with possibility. Back in her apartment, Emily spread out her notes on the kitchen table, a chaotic map of scribbled names and question marks. Musk. Graceland. The symbol. She pulled up her laptop, searching for anything linking the billionaire to Elvis's estate. Most of the results were fluff, fan theories about Musk buying Graceland or turning it into a Tesla museum, but one X-post caught her eye, time-stamped 3 days ago, saw Musk's team hauling crates out of Graceland at 2 a.m. looked sketchy, # what did he find. The user had no profile picture, no other posts. A dead end, but it fueled her suspicion. She leaned back, sipping cold coffee, her eyes drifting to a framed photo on the shelf, the only one she had of her and Sarah, taken when Emily was 8. They were at a county fair in Texas, Sarah's arm around her, both of them laughing under a Ferris wheel's glow. Emily's chest tightened. She'd spent years hating her mother for leaving, but now, with this mystery tugging at her, she wondered if Sarah's departure had been about more than abandoning her daughter. Maybe Sarah had been running from something, or protecting Emily from it. The clock read midnight. Emily grabbed her notebook and jotted down a plan. She'd need access to Graceland, but as a journalist with no credentials to flash, that wouldn't be easy. Her thoughts turned to Jake Carter, her childhood friend who now worked as a tour guide at the mansion. They hadn't spoken in months, not since her last visit to Memphis when she'd brushed off his attempts to reconnect. Jake knew Graceland's ins and outs. Its public rooms and maybe its secrets. If anyone could get her into the basement, it was him. She texted him, "Hey, Jake. Need a favor. Can we talk tomorrow? It's about Graceland." Her thumb hovered over the send button, hesitating. Jake had always been there for her, even when Sarah wasn't. Asking for his help felt like admitting she couldn't do this alone. She hit send anyway. Minutes later, her phone lit up with his reply, Been a while. Sure, meet me at the diner on Union Avenue, 9 a.m. What's going on? Emily exhaled, a mix of relief and nerves. Jake was her way in, but he'd want answers she didn't have yet. She glanced at the note again, its words seared into her mind, look for the symbol. What had Musk found? A lost Elvis recording? A hidden vault? Or something so wild it defied explanation? Her career, her life, had been built on chasing truth, no matter the cost. This time, the cost felt personal. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Emily shut her laptop and stood, grabbing her keys. Graceland was waiting, and so was the truth. The diner on Union Avenue smelled of burnt coffee and bacon grease, a familiar comfort that tugged Emily Harper back to her childhood. She slid into a red vinyl booth, the morning sun slicing through the blinds and glinting off the chipped formica table. Across from her, Jake Carter grinned, his sandy hair still boyishly messy, his Graceland tour guide polo slightly wrinkled. He hadn't changed much since they were kids in rural Texas, chasing fireflies and dreaming of lives bigger than their small town. But Emily had changed, and the weight of those changes hung between them like an unspoken question. You look like you haven't slept in a week, Jake said, stirring sugar into his coffee. What's this about Graceland? You're not writing another exposé to piss off half of Memphis, are you? Emily forced a smile, her fingers tracing the edge of her notebook. Not exactly. I got a tip. Something big. About Elon Musk and something he found at Graceland. She kept her voice low, scanning the diner. A waitress hummed an old country tune, and a trucker at the counter scrolled his phone, oblivious. Still, the cryptic texts from last night, lives are at stake, made her paranoid. Jake raised an eyebrow, leaning forward. Musk? The Tesla guy? Come on, you're chasing tabloid gossip now. It's not gossip, she snapped, then softened. Look, I know it sounds crazy, but the tip was specific. A symbol in the basement. Something that could rewrite history. I need to get in there, Jake. You're my only shot. Jake's grin faded, his blue eyes searching hers. He knew her too well. Knew the stubborn streak that had driven her to journalism, to dig for truth no matter the cost. He also knew the scars she carried, the ones tied to her mother, Sarah Harper, and the city they now sat in. You sure this isn't personal? He asked quietly. Graceland, it's tied to her, isn't it? Emily's chest tightened. She hated how Jake could cut through her defenses, but he wasn't wrong. Graceland wasn't just a lead, it was a tether to her past, to the mother who'd left her with nothing but questions. She took a sip of her coffee, bitter and cold, and let her mind drift back to where it all began. 20 years ago, Emily was 12, living in a dusty Texas town where the horizon stretched flat and endless. Their trailer home smelled of cigarette smoke and cheap perfume, the walls papered with Sarah's old gig posters from her days as a backup singer in Memphis. Sarah had been a star in Emily's eyes, wild, beautiful, with a voice that could hush a room. She'd sing Elvis ballads to Emily at night, her fingers strumming an old guitar, promising they'd visit Graceland someday. It's where dreams live, Em, she'd say, her eyes distant, like she was chasing a memory. But Sarah was restless, haunted by something she never explained. She'd disappear for days, leaving Emily with neighbors, returning with red-rimmed eyes and stories she wouldn't share. One night, she didn't come back. Emily found the note on the kitchen table, scrawled in Sarah's looping handwriting, "Find your own song." Next to it was a guitar pick, black with a silver star, the only piece of her mother she had left. Emily cried for weeks, then buried her pain in books, in writing, in a vow to uncover truths others hid. She never forgave Sarah, but she never stopped wondering why. Jake had been her anchor through it all. 2 years older, he lived in the trailer next door, always ready with a joke or a late-night adventure to distract her. He'd sneak her into the local diner for milkshakes when Sarah was gone, promising she'd come back. When she didn't, Jake was the one who held Emily as she sobbed, the one who taught her to ride a bike, to keep moving forward. He moved to Memphis for college, then stayed, working at Graceland, while Emily chased her journalism dreams in Austin, then Nashville, then back to Memphis. They'd drifted apart, but Jake's texts, checking in, offering a laugh, never stopped. You still got that guitar pick? Jake's voice pulled Emily back to the diner. He nodded at the silver chain around her neck, where the pick hung, tucked under her shirt. She touched it instinctively, the edges worn smooth from years of worry. Yeah, she said, her voice tight. Habit. Jake leaned back, his expression softening. You think this tip has something to do with Sarah? Emily hesitated. The thought had been gnawing at her since the first text. Sarah's stories about Graceland had always felt layered, like she was holding something back. Maybe, she admitted. She used to talk about the place like it was more than a museum. Like it had secrets. If Musk found something there, I need to know what it is. For the story, and for me. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. Graceland's my job, Em. I can't just sneak you into restricted areas. The basement's off limits, even for staff. Security's tight since Musk's visit, cameras, guards, the works. Whatever he was doing, they don't want it getting out. That's why I need you, Emily pressed. You know the place better than anyone. You've got access. Just get me in for an hour. I'll do the rest. Jake studied her, his jaw tight. For a moment, she thought he'd say no, but then he nodded. All right. Tomorrow night, after the last tour. Meet me at the staff entrance, 8 p.m. But if we get caught, I'm blaming you. Emily grinned, relief flooding her. Deal. They spent the next hour catching up, the conversation lighter but tinged with tension. Jake talked about his job, the quirky tourists, the way Graceland felt alive with Elvis's ghost. Emily shared snippets of her struggles, her editor's ultimatum, the pressure to deliver a story that mattered. But she kept the details of the tip vague, unsure how much to trust, even with Jake. The note burned in her pocket, its words looping in her mind, "Look for the symbol." As they left the diner, the Memphis sun hung low, painting the sky orange. Jake paused by his truck, his expression serious. Be careful. Graceland's got a way of pulling you in. Whatever Musk found, it's stirring things up. I heard whispers from the staff, strange noises in the basement, locked doors that weren't locked before. It's weird. Emily nodded, her pulse quickening. I can handle weird. Jake's smile was half-hearted. You always could. Back at her apartment, Emily spread her notes across the table again, adding Jake's name and a sketch of Graceland's layout from memory. She pulled up her laptop, digging deeper into Musk's visit. A few X posts mentioned crates being moved, but nothing solid. One user, anonymous, posted a blurry photo of a symbol, a star inside a circle, etched on a wall. The caption read, "Graceland's hiding something. Musk knows." Her breath caught. Was this the symbol? She thought of Sarah again, of the guitar pick around her neck. The star on it matched the one in the photo, faint but unmistakable. Coincidence? Or a clue? Emily's hands shook as she saved the image. Her mother's past, Musk's discovery, her own faltering career, they were converging, pulling her toward Graceland like a magnet. She grabbed her phone and texted her editor, "Lisa, got a lead on something big. Graceland. Musk. Need time." Lisa's reply was instant, 1 week, Harper. Deliver or you're done. Emily set the phone down, her resolve stealing. She'd find the truth, whatever it was. For her career. For her mother. For herself. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story's just getting started. What's one memory from your past that still drives you today? Tomorrow, she'd step into Graceland, into the heart of the mystery. And she wouldn't stop until she had answers. The Memphis skyline shimmered in the late afternoon heat, a mix of glass towers and old brick buildings that felt both foreign and familiar to Emily Harper. She gripped the steering wheel of her battered Honda Civic, the hum of the engine barely drowning out her racing thoughts. Graceland loomed ahead, its white columns and sprawling lawn a beacon of Americana, but to Emily, it was a Pandora's box. The anonymous note from Beale Street, Graceland's basement. Look for the symbol, burned in her mind, as did the star-shaped guitar pick around her neck, a haunting echo of her mother's past. Emily pulled into the Graceland parking lot, the asphalt radiating heat. Tourists milled about, snapping photos in front of the iconic gates, their laughter clashing with the knot in her stomach. She checked her phone. 7:45 p.m. Jake had promised to meet her at the staff entrance after the last tour group cleared out. Her editor's ultimatum echoed in her head, 1 week, Harper, or you're done, and the weight of it pressed harder with every tick of the clock. This wasn't just about saving her career, it was about unraveling the mystery of Elon Musk's discovery and, maybe, understanding why her mother, Sarah, had abandoned her all those years ago. The staff entrance was tucked behind a row of magnolia trees, out of sight from the tourist chaos. Emily leaned against the wall, her denim jacket sticking to her skin in the humid air. She scanned the lot, half expecting the hooded figure from Beale Street to appear again. Instead, Jake emerged from a side door, his Graceland polo swapped for a faded t-shirt, his expression a mix of curiosity and caution. You're early, he said, his voice warm but guarded. You sure about this? Sneaking into Graceland's not exactly a casual favor. Emily forced a grin, masking her nerves. When have I ever been casual? Come on, Jake, you know me. I'm all in. He sighed, running a hand through his sandy hair. Yeah, that's what worries me. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. Things have been weird here since Musk's visit. Staff's on edge, security's doubled, and there's talk, weird talk. People saying they've heard noises in the basement, like machinery or something. I don't know what you're chasing, but it's got everyone spooked. Emily's pulse quickened. What kind of talk? Jake hesitated, his eyes darting to the shadows. Locals on X are saying Musk found something, old tech, maybe, or some kind of archive. One guy swore he saw crates being loaded into a van at night, marked with a weird symbol. A star in a circle. Sound familiar? Her breath caught. The symbol from the note, and the one on her mother's guitar pick. She touched the pick through her shirt, her mind racing. That's what I'm here for, she said. I need to see the basement, Jake. Whatever Musk found, it's tied to that symbol. Jake's jaw tightened, but he nodded. All right. Follow me. But we're in and out, Em. No heroics. He led her through the staff entrance, a narrow hallway lined with lockers and faded posters of Elvis in his prime. The air smelled of polish and nostalgia, but there was an undercurrent of something else, tension, like the building itself was holding its breath. Jake swiped a keycard, and they slipped into a service corridor that led to the mansion's lower levels. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting long shadows on the concrete walls. Emily's boots echoed as they descended a staircase, her heart pounding with every step. She'd been to Graceland as a kid, trailing Sarah on a rare visit, but the basement was off-limits, a place even her mother's stories never touched. What's down here? She whispered. Storage, mostly, Jake said, his voice low. Old props, costumes, stuff from Elvis's movies. But there's a section that's always been locked. Even I've never been inside. After Musk's visit, they put up new cameras, new locks. Whatever he was doing, they're keeping it tight. They reached a heavy metal door, its surface scratched but unyielding. A keypad glowed faintly, and above it, carved into the wall, was the symbol, a star inside a circle, faint but unmistakable. Emily's breath hitched. That's it, she said, pulling out her phone to snap a photo. The symbol matched the one from the X post, and the one etched on her mother's pic. It wasn't a coincidence. It couldn't be. Jake frowned, his hand hovering over the keypad. This is where it gets dicey. I don't have the code, and if we trip an alarm. Then we move fast, she cut in, her voice steady despite the adrenaline. Can you get me in or not? Jake muttered something under his breath, then pulled a small tool from his pocket, a makeshift lockpick he'd probably learned to use back in their troublemaking days. Give me a sec, he said, working the keypad's wiring. The door clicked, and he pushed it open, revealing a dark, musty room that smelled of dust and secrets. Emily stepped inside, her flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Crates lined the walls, some marked with faded labels, others with strange symbols she didn't recognize. In the center of the room was a table, and on it, a single sheet of paper, a blueprint, maybe, or a map, with the same star and circle symbol scrawled in the corner. Her hands shook as she reached for it, but before she could read it, footsteps echoed above them. Jake, she hissed, someone's coming. He froze, his face pale. We gotta go. Now. They bolted for the door, but it slammed shut behind them, the lock clicking with finality. Emily's heart sank. Trapped. The footsteps grew louder, and a shadow loomed in the stairwell. Panic clawed at her, but then a voice, low, urgent, called out. Emily Harper. I know you're down there. It wasn't security. It was a woman, her tone sharp but not threatening. Emily exchanged a glance with Jake, who looked as confused as she felt. Who's there? Emily called, her voice echoing off the concrete. The woman stepped into the light, her dark hair pulled back, her badge glinting. Detective Maria Torres, Memphis PD. I got your text to your editor. You're in over your head, Harper. But I can help, if you tell me what you're after. Emily's mind raced. Her text to Lisa had been vague, but somehow this detective had tracked her here. Was she an ally or another obstacle? I'm after the truth, Emily said, holding up the blueprint. Musk found something down here. A symbol. A secret. And I think it's tied to my mother. Torres's eyes narrowed, but she nodded. Then we need to talk. But not here. Security's on their way. Follow me. Jake grabbed Emily's arm, his voice a whisper. You trust her? I don't have a choice, Emily said, clutching the blueprint. Hope flickered in her chest, a chance to escape, a chance to dig deeper. But the footsteps above grew louder, and the weight of the symbol, of her mother's past, pressed heavier than ever. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This mystery's unraveling fast. What's one risk you've taken to find the truth? As Torres led them through a hidden exit, Emily knew she was stepping into something bigger than a story. Graceland's secrets were calling, and she was answering. The air in Graceland's basement was thick with dust and secrets, the kind that clung to your skin and made your heart race. Emily Harper's flashlight beam danced across the concrete walls, illuminating crates stacked like silent sentinels. The blueprint she'd grabbed, marked with the star-in-circle symbol, felt heavy in her hand, a fragile clue to the mystery that had pulled her back to Memphis. Beside her, Jake Carter's breath was shallow, his eyes darting to the shadows as if expecting the locked door to burst open. Detective Maria Torres led the way through the hidden exit she'd found, her steps brisk but silent, her police badge catching the faint light. Move fast, Torres whispered, her voice clipped. Security's not far behind. Emily's pulse pounded, the memory of the locked door and the approaching footsteps fueling her adrenaline. The woman's voice from earlier, "You're in over your head, Harper," echoed in her mind, a warning that felt personal. How did Torres know her name? And why was a Memphis cop sneaking around Graceland's basement at night? Emily clutched the blueprint tighter, its edges crinkling under her grip. She didn't trust Torres, not yet, but the detective was her only way out. They emerged into a service tunnel, its walls damp and lined with rusted pipes. The air smelled of mildew and old paint, a stark contrast to the polished glamour of Graceland's public rooms. Torres pushed open a grate, revealing a narrow alley behind the mansion. The Memphis night was humid, the distant hum of Beale Street's music a faint pulse against the quiet. Emily's boots crunched on gravel as she followed Torres, Jake close behind, his silence heavy with unease. Who tipped you off? Emily asked, her voice low but sharp. You said you saw my text to my editor, but that doesn't explain why you're here. Torres glanced back, her dark eyes unreadable. I've been tracking odd activity at Graceland for months. Musk's visit last week set off alarms, crates moved, restricted areas locked down. Then I intercepted your text to Lisa Grant. You're not the only one chasing this, Harper. But you're the only one dumb enough to break in. Emily bristled but held her tongue. Torres was right. She was in deep, and the blueprint in her hand was proof this wasn't just a hunch. She unfolded it under the glow of a street lamp, her heart skipping as she studied the details, a map of Graceland's basement, with the star and circle symbol marking a specific room. Handwritten notes in the margins mentioned Project Starlight and EP Archives. Elvis Presley? Or something else entirely? Jake peered over her shoulder, his brow furrowing. Project Starlight? Never heard of it. And I've been at Graceland 5 years. Torres's expression tightened. That's because it's buried deep. Whatever Musk found, it's got people scared. I've seen unmarked vans leaving the estate at night, and my contacts say they're headed to a warehouse outside town. You want answers, Harper. That blueprint's your ticket, but it's also a target on your back. Emily's stomach twisted, the warning from the basement ringing in her ears. She thought of her mother, Sarah, whose stories about Graceland had always carried a hint of something unspoken. The guitar pick around her neck felt heavier, its star design a mirror to the symbol on the blueprint. Was Sarah connected to this Project Starlight? Had she left to protect Emily, or to hide from something? Before she could respond, a shadow moved at the end of the alley. Jake grabbed her arm, pulling her behind a dumpster. Torres crouched low, her hand on her holster. A figure in a dark coat stood under a street lamp, their face obscured, but Emily's blood ran cold. It was the same silhouette from the basement. The figure didn't approach, but their voice cut through the night, low and deliberate. "Last chance, Harper. Drop it, or you'll lose more than your story." The words landed like a punch. Emily's breath hitched, her mind racing. How did they know her? Was it about the blueprint, or something personal? Jake's grip tightened, his eyes wide with fear, but Torres stood, her gun drawn. "Show yourself." Torres called, her voice steady. The figure didn't move, then turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving only the echo of their warning. Emily's heart pounded, but a spark of defiance ignited. "I'm not stopping," she whispered, more to herself than to Jake or Torres. This wasn't just about Musk or her career anymore. It was about answers, about Sarah, about the truth. Torres holstered her gun, her expression grim. "You're stubborn, Harper. I like that. But you're playing with fire. Meet me tomorrow at the precinct. I've got files you need to see, off the record." Emily nodded, her mind still on the figure's words. "Thanks for the save," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "But I need to check something first." Torres raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. "Don't do anything stupid before tomorrow." She slipped back into the shadows, leaving Emily and Jake alone in the alley. Jake exhaled, running a hand through his hair. This is getting crazy. That guy knew you. What the hell's going on?" "I don't know," Emily admitted, her fingers brushing the guitar pick. "But I'm close to something. I can feel it." She hesitated, then added, "There's an archive room in the mansion, right? For Elvis's old stuff." Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah, but it's locked tight." "Why?" "I need to see it. Tonight." Jake groaned. "You're gonna get us fired, or worse." But Emily was already moving, her flashlight back in hand. Jake cursed under his breath but followed, leading her to a side entrance used for maintenance. Inside, the archive room was a cluttered shrine to Elvis. Boxes of fan letters, faded costumes, and yellowed sheet music. Emily scanned the shelves, her eyes catching on a small, unmarked box tucked in a corner. The star and circle symbol was etched on its lid. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single letter, its paper brittle with age. The handwriting was unmistakable, Sarah's. Emily's breath caught as she read. If you're reading this, you're closer than I ever was. Project Starlight was bigger than Elvis, bigger than me. I left to keep you safe. Forgive me. The truth is in the heart of Graceland. Find it, but be careful. They'll do anything to protect it." Tears stung Emily's eyes. Sarah hadn't abandoned her out of selfishness, she'd been running from something. Hope flickered, a fragile light in the darkness of her anger. Her mother had left a clue, a path to follow. But the warning in the letter, "They'll do anything," echoed the threat from the alley, pulling her back to the danger. Jake touched her shoulder, his voice soft. "You okay?" Emily nodded, folding the letter carefully. She knew something, Jake. And it's tied to Musk's discovery. I need to find that room on the blueprint. But as they turned to leave, a loud click echoed through the room. The door slammed shut, and the lights flickered out, plunging them into darkness. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. Emily's heart raced, the letter clutched to her chest. Hope had led her here, but now the shadows were closing in. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story's getting darker. What's one secret you've uncovered that changed everything? The darkness in Graceland's archive room was suffocating, broken only by the faint glow of Emily Harper's flashlight. Her heart pounded as the footsteps outside grew louder, deliberate, like a predator circling its prey. The letter from her mother, Sarah, was clutched in her hand, its words, "The truth is in the heart of Graceland," burning in her mind. Jake Carter stood beside her, his breath ragged, his eyes darting to the locked door. The blueprint with the star and circle symbol lay folded in her pocket, a map to something bigger, something tied to Elon Musk's mysterious discovery. But now, trapped in the archive room, Emily felt the walls closing in. We gotta move," Jake whispered, his voice tight with panic. "Whoever's out there isn't messing around." Emily nodded, her mind racing. The letter had given her hope, a fragile thread connecting her to Sarah, to the truth, but the approaching footsteps were a stark reminder of the danger. She scanned the room, her flashlight catching on the box where she'd found the letter. The star and circle symbol etched on its lid seemed to pulse in the dim light, a beacon calling her forward. "Help me search," she said, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her chest. "There's gotta be something else here, something tied to the blueprint." Jake hesitated, his gaze flickering to the door, but he nodded and started rummaging through the shelves. The archive was a chaotic shrine to Elvis Presley, boxes of fan mail, vinyl records, faded photos, but Emily's focus was on the symbol. She pulled the blueprint from her pocket, unfolding it under her flashlight. The map showed a network of rooms in Graceland's basement, with one marked by the star and circle, labeled simply, "Heart." Her mother's words echoed, "The truth is in the heart of Graceland." "There," she said, pointing to a corner of the room where a stack of crates hid a section of the wall. "The blueprint shows a hidden door behind storage. We need to find it." Jake's hands shook as he helped her move the crates, revealing a plain concrete wall. But as Emily ran her fingers along it, she felt a faint seam, a hidden panel. Her pulse quickened. "This is it," she whispered, pressing against the wall. A soft click echoed, and the panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage that smelled of damp stone and secrets. Hope surged through her. This was the breakthrough she'd been chasing, a physical link to the mystery. But before she could step inside, Jake grabbed her arm, his face pale. There's something I need to tell you." Her stomach dropped at his tone. "What?" He looked away, his jaw tight. I knew about the symbol before you showed me. I saw it a week ago, during Musk's visit. His team paid me to keep quiet about what they were doing down here. I didn't ask questions, just took the cash. I needed it, My mom's medical bills, they're drowning me." Emily's blood ran cold. The betrayal stung, sharp and personal. Jake, her oldest friend, the one person she trusted in this mess, had been hiding something. "You lied to me," she said, her voice low but laced with hurt. "You knew what I was walking into and didn't say a word." "I'm sorry," Jake said, his eyes pleading. "I didn't know it was this big. I thought it was just some rich guy's weird project. But after you showed me the blueprint, I realized, it's more. I'm telling you now because I'm in, all the way." She wanted to scream, to push him away, but the footsteps outside were closer now, a reminder of the stakes. She swallowed her anger, forcing herself to focus. "We'll deal with this later," she said coldly. "Right now, we need to move." They slipped into the passage, the panel sliding shut behind them. The tunnel was narrow, its walls rough-hewn stone, and the air was heavy with the scent of earth. Emily's flashlight revealed more symbols etched along the walls, stars, circles, and strange geometric shapes that felt out of place in Elvis's mansion. The passage sloped downward, leading to a heavy wooden door carved with the star and circle symbol. Her mother's letter flashed in her mind, "Find it, but be careful. They'll do anything to protect it." Emily pushed the door open, revealing a small, circular room. The walls were lined with shelves, but instead of Elvis memorabilia, they held strange, metallic objects, devices that looked like prototypes, with blinking lights and intricate wiring. In the center was a pedestal, and on it, a leather-bound journal with the star and circle embossed on its cover. Emily's heart raced as she opened it, finding pages filled with technical diagrams, notes about Project Starlight, and references to Elvis himself. One line stood out, written in a different hand, Sarah's, "The heart holds the key. Trust no one." "This is it," Emily whispered, her voice trembling with awe. The journal was a piece of the puzzle, proof that Musk's discovery was tied to something extraordinary, something her mother had known about. Hope flared again, brighter this time. She was closer to the truth, to understanding Sarah's disappearance, to reclaiming her career. But the moment shattered as a loud thud echoed from the tunnel behind them. Jake spun around, his flashlight catching a glint of metal, a crowbar in the hands of a shadowed figure. "You were warned, Harper," the figure growled, stepping into the light. It was a man, his face obscured by a scarf, his eyes cold and unyielding. He raised the crowbar, and Emily's breath caught, the journal slipping from her hands. Jake shoved her behind him, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "Back off, man. You don't want this." The man laughed, a harsh sound that echoed in the small room. "You have no idea what you're messing with. Hand over the journal, or you're both done." Emily's mind raced, the weight of Jake's betrayal and Sarah's warning colliding with the immediate danger. She clutched the journal tighter, her resolve hardening. This was her chance, her first real breakthrough, and she wasn't letting it go. But the man took a step closer, the crowbar glinting, and the hope she'd felt moments ago was swallowed by a new wave of fear. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This mystery's unraveling fast. What's one moment that pushed you to keep going, even when the odds were against you? As the man advanced, Emily braced herself, the journal her only weapon. The truth was within reach, but the shadows of Graceland were closing in. The air in the hidden room beneath Graceland was thick with tension, the star and circle symbol on the journal in Emily Harper's hand seeming to pulse with secrets. The man with the crowbar loomed closer, his scarf masking his face but not the menace in his eyes. Jake Carter stood protectively in front of her, his stance rigid, but Emily's mind was a storm, reeling from his confession that he'd taken money to keep quiet about Musk's activities. The journal, with its cryptic notes about Project Starlight and her mother's handwriting, was her lifeline to the truth, but Jake's betrayal had cracked her trust in him. The man's voice cut through the silence, cold and final, "Hand it over, Harper, or this gets ugly." Emily's heart pounded, the weight of the moment crashing down. Climax, she tightened her grip on the journal, her mother's words, "Trust no one," echoing in her head. Jake's betrayal stung, but she wasn't about to let some thug take the only clue she had. "Back off," she snapped, her voice steadier than she felt. "You want it? Come get it." The man lunged, crowbar raised, but Jake moved faster, tackling him to the ground. The two grappled, the crowbar clattering against the stone floor. Emily's pulse raced as she scanned the room for an escape. The pedestal in the center caught her eye, a faint seam suggested it might move. She shoved it with all her strength, and it slid aside, revealing a narrow trapdoor. Hope flickered, a lifeline in the chaos. "Hope, Jake, here," she shouted, yanking the trapdoor open. Jake shoved the man back, scrambling to her side. They dropped through the trapdoor into a damp, earthen tunnel, the journal clutched to Emily's chest. The man's curses echoed above as they ran, the flashlight beam bouncing wildly. The tunnel sloped upward, spitting them out into a maintenance shed behind Graceland's grounds. The Memphis night was heavy with humidity, the distant lights of the mansion glowing like a fever dream. They collapsed against the shed, catching their breath. Emily turned on Jake, her anger boiling over. "You took money to keep quiet? From Musk's people? What the hell, Jake? I trusted you." Jake's face crumpled, his hands raised in defense. I know, Em. I screwed up. My mom's hospital bills. I was desperate. I didn't know it was this big, symbols, journals, guys with crowbars. I'm sorry. I'm telling you everything now. Emily wanted to believe him, but the hurt ran deep. Jake had been her rock, the one constant through her mother's abandonment, her faltering career. Now, he was part of the shadows she was fighting. You should have told me from the start, she said, her voice low. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Before Jake could respond, headlights swept across the lawn. A black SUV screeched to a stop, and Detective Maria Torres stepped out, her expression grim. You two are lucky I was tailing you, she said, her badge glinting in the moonlight. Security's swarming the mansion. What did you find? Emily hesitated, the journal heavy in her hands. Torres had saved them in the basement, but her sudden appearances were too convenient. Still, Emily needed allies, and Torres had resources she didn't. She held up the journal, keeping her distance. This. It's got notes about something called Project Starlight. And my mother's handwriting. Torres's eyes widened, but she didn't reach for it. Smart move, Harper. That journal's dangerous. I've got files at the precinct that might connect the dots, off-the-record stuff about Graceland, Musk, and some weird tech experiments from the 70s. Meet me there tomorrow, noon. Bring the journal. Emily nodded, hope stirring again. Hope, Torres's files could be the key to decoding the journal, to understanding Sarah's role in this mystery. But as Torres drove off, Emily's phone buzzed with a text from her editor, Lisa, heard you're poking around Graceland. Drop it, Harper. It's too big for you. Last warning. The words hit like a gut punch. Climax, Lisa had always been tough, but this felt different, almost threatening. Was she under pressure too? Emily's career was hanging by a thread, and now her editor was telling her to back off. She stared at the journal, its leather cover worn but warm in her hands. Sarah's note had warned her to be careful, but walking away wasn't an option. Not when she was this close. Jake shifted beside her, his voice soft. I know I messed up, but I'm not bailing on you. Let me help. I can get us back into Graceland, there's another way into the basement, through the old stables. I owe you that much. Emily studied him, her anger warring with the memories of their childhood, nights sneaking into the Texas fair, sharing dreams under the stars. Jake had been her family when Sarah wasn't. Could she forgive him? One more chance, she said finally. But no more secrets, Jake. I mean it. He nodded, relief flooding his face. No more secrets. I promise. They walked to Emily's car, the Graceland mansion looming behind them, its lights casting long shadows across the lawn. The journal felt like a lifeline, but also a weight, proof that Sarah had been part of something bigger, something that had driven her away. Emily's mind raced with questions. What was Project Starlight? Why was Musk involved? And who was desperate enough to send armed thugs after her? Back at her apartment, Emily spread the journal and blueprint across her kitchen table, the Memphis skyline glittering through her window. The journal's pages were a mix of technical diagrams. Circuits, frequencies, something about resonance, and cryptic notes about Elvis. One entry, dated 1975, read, EP wanted the world to know, but they silenced him. Starlight lives. Sarah's handwriting appeared again, a single line, I tried to protect it. I failed. Emily's throat tightened. Sarah hadn't just left her, she'd been protecting something, maybe even protecting Emily. The thought softened the edges of her anger, but it also raised the stakes. Whoever they were still out there, watching her. The man with the crowbar, Lisa's warning, Torres's sudden involvement, it all pointed to a conspiracy bigger than she'd imagined. She pulled the guitar pick from under her shirt, its star design glinting under the lamp. It wasn't just a memento, it was a key, a link to the symbol, to Project Starlight, to her mother's choices. Emily's resolve hardened. She'd meet Torres tomorrow, dig into those files, and find the heart of Graceland. But first, she needed to survive the night. As she locked her door and dimmed the lights, a shadow passed by her window, a flicker, gone in an instant. Her heart skipped, the journal suddenly feeling like a target. The hope of answers was real, but so was the danger closing in. The Memphis night was a blanket of heat and stars, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and anticipation. Emily Harper crouched in the shadows of Graceland's old stables, her heart pounding as she clutched the leather-bound journal and the blueprint. The star and circle symbol on both seemed to burn through her jacket, a reminder of the danger she was walking into. Beside her, Detective Maria Torres checked her watch, her face a mask of focus under the dim glow of a penlight. Jake Carter had promised to meet them here, to guide them back into the basement, but his betrayal still stung, a raw wound Emily couldn't ignore. "You sure about this, Harper?" Torres whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of crickets. "That journal's got people spooked. We're not just breaking into Graceland, we're stepping on someone's toes, and they've got big boots." Emily's jaw tightened. "I'm sure. My mother left me a trail, and it leads to that room on the blueprint. Whatever Musk found, it's in there. I'm not stopping now." Torres nodded, her eyes scanning the darkness. "All right. But if we get caught, I'm not explaining this to my captain." Emily managed a grim smile, but her thoughts were on the journal's cryptic notes, Project Starlight, EP Archives, the heart of Graceland, and her mother's warning, they'll do anything to protect it. The man with the crowbar, Lisa's threatening text, Jake's secrecy, it all pointed to a truth bigger than she'd imagined. The guitar pick around her neck felt heavier, its star design a tether to Sarah's past and the mystery unfolding. The stable door creaked open, and Jake slipped out, his expression tense. "You're late," he muttered, glancing at Torres with suspicion. "Who's she?" "Detective Maria Torres," Emily said, her tone sharp. "She's helping us. You got a problem with that?" Jake's eyes flickered with guilt, but he shook his head. "No problem. Let's move. I've got a key to the service tunnel. Security's light tonight, but we've got maybe an hour before the next patrol." Emily studied him, her trust frayed but not broken. Jake's confession about taking money from Musk's team had shaken her, but his willingness to risk his job now was a small step toward redemption. She nodded, and the three of them slipped into the stables, the air thick with the smell of old hay and motor oil. Jake led them to a hidden hatch beneath a stack of crates, revealing a concrete tunnel that sloped downward into Graceland's underbelly. The tunnel was claustrophobic, its walls slick with moisture, the only sound their muffled footsteps and the distant drip of water. Emily's flashlight caught more star and circle symbols etched into the stone, each one a breadcrumb leading deeper into the mystery. Her mother's letter had called this the heart of Graceland, and the blueprint pointed to a specific room. Climax, the anticipation was electric, a promise of answers just out of reach. They reached a rusted metal door, the star and circle symbol carved into its surface. Jake hesitated, his hand on the handle. "This is it, Em. Beyond this, I don't know what we're walking into." Torres checked her gun, her voice calm but firm. "Then we go in ready. Open it." Jake pushed the door open, revealing a circular chamber that felt like stepping into another world. The walls were lined with shelves, but instead of Elvis memorabilia, they held strange, metallic devices, cylinders with blinking lights, circuits that hummed faintly, and glass panels etched with the star and circle. In the center was a pedestal, and on it, a small, silver artifact, a sphere no bigger than a baseball, its surface inscribed with intricate patterns that seemed to shift in the light. Emily's breath caught. This was no Elvis prop, it was something else entirely. "Holy crap," Jake whispered, his eyes wide. "What is this place?" Torres stepped forward, her penlight sweeping the room. "Looks like a lab. Old, but, advanced. This must be what Musk was after. Emily approached the pedestal, her hands trembling as she lifted the sphere. It was warm, heavier than it looked, and a faint vibration pulsed through her fingers. The journal's notes flashed in her mind: resonance, frequencies, starlight, and she opened it, finding a diagram that matched the artifact's design. A note in Sarah's handwriting read, "The heart sings. Protect it." Hope, her mother had been here, had touched this thing, had known its power. The realization flooded Emily with purpose. She was closer to understanding Sarah's choices, to reclaiming her own path. But the moment of hope shattered as an alarm blared, red lights flashing in the chamber. Climax, Torres cursed, pulling Emily back. "Security's onto us. We need to move, now." Footsteps thundered above, and the door at the far end of the chamber rattled. Jake grabbed a crate, barricading it as best he could, but the pounding grew louder. Emily shoved the sphere into her backpack, her heart racing. The journal and blueprint were already tucked inside, but the artifact felt like a ticking bomb. "Which way out?" she shouted. Torres pointed to a narrow grate in the corner. "There, emergency exit. It leads to the grounds. Go." They scrambled through the grate, crawling through a tight, muddy tunnel that smelled of earth and decay. The artifact weighed heavily in Emily's bag, its faint hum unnerving. Behind them, the chamber door splintered, and shouts echoed, "Security, maybe, or something worse." Emily's mind flashed to the man with the crowbar, to the warnings that had followed her. Whoever they weren't letting this go. The tunnel spat them out into a thicket near Graceland's perimeter fence. They sprinted across the lawn, the mansion's lights glaring like accusing eyes. Torres led them to her SUV, parked in a shadowed lot, and they piled in, her tires screeching as she peeled out onto Elvis Presley Boulevard. Emily's chest heaved, the artifacts weighed a constant reminder of what they'd found. "You got a death wish, Harper," Torres said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "That thing in your bag, it's why people are after you. My files at the precinct will tell you more, but you need to decide if this is worth your life." Emily clutched her backpack, the sphere's hum faint but persistent. "It's worth it," she said, her voice steady. "My mother knew about this. I need to know why she left me to protect it." Jake was silent, his face etched with guilt. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't know it was, this." He gestured to her bag, his voice breaking. "I'm with you, okay? Whatever it takes." Emily nodded, but the sting of his betrayal lingered. Torres's files were her next step, but trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. The artifact, the journal, Sarah's letter, they were pieces of a puzzle that could change everything. But as the SUV sped through Memphis's neon-lit streets, Emily felt the shadows of Graceland trailing her, their secrets as dangerous as they were alluring. The Memphis skyline glittered through the precinct window, a mosaic of neon and steel against the midnight sky. Emily Harper sat at a cluttered desk in a small office, the mysterious artifact, a silver sphere with shifting patterns, tucked safely in her backpack. The journal and blueprint lay open before her, their star-and-circle symbols a haunting echo of her mother's guitar pick. Detective Maria Torres leaned against the wall, her arms crossed, her dark eyes studying Emily with an intensity that made her uneasy. Jake Carter was outside, waiting in the precinct's lobby, his presence a reminder of his betrayal and his tentative redemption. Emily's heart was a tangle of anger, hope, and questions, all rooted in the letter from Sarah, "I left to keep you safe." Torres slid a manila folder across the desk. "This is everything I've got on Graceland's off-the-books activity," she said, her voice low. "Old police reports, witness statements, rumors from the 70s. Read it, Harper, but don't say I didn't warn you. This goes deeper than Musk." Emily opened the folder, her hands trembling. The first page was a grainy photo of a group outside Graceland, dated 1975. Among them was a young woman with wild curls and a defiant smile, Sarah, unmistakable, holding a guitar case. Emily's breath caught, a wave of longing and resentment crashing over her. Climax, Sarah had been part of this, part of whatever Project Starlight was, and she'd left Emily to protect it. The betrayal stung, but the photo was a lifeline, a glimpse into the mother she'd lost. 20 years ago, Emily was 12, living in a dusty Texas trailer park where the sun baked the earth to a crisp. Sarah was a fading star, her voice still rich but her spirit frayed. She'd sing Elvis's "Can't Help Falling in Love" to Emily at night, her fingers dancing over guitar strings, but her eyes were always distant, haunted. "Graceland's more than a house, Em," she'd say, her voice soft. "It's where dreams meet secrets." Emily didn't understand then, but she clung to those moments, to the warmth of Sarah's arm around her. But Sarah's disappearances grew longer, days, then weeks, until one night, she didn't come back. Emily found the note and the guitar pick, the only pieces of her mother left behind. She'd cried until her throat was raw, then buried her pain in school, in writing, in a vow to uncover truths others hid. Sarah's absence was a wound that never healed, and now, in this precinct office, the photo of her at Graceland ripped it open again. Emily flipped through the folder, her heart racing. The documents detailed a group called the Starlight Collective, a secret society tied to Graceland in the 70s. They weren't just Elvis fans. They were scientists, artists, and musicians working on something called Project Starlight, a blend of music and experimental technology meant to resonate with the human soul. The artifact, the journal's diagrams, Sarah's notes, it all pointed to this. One report mentioned a young singer, Sarah Harper, who joined the group but vanished in 2005, the year she left Emily. "She was protecting me," Emily whispered, her voice breaking. The realization softened her anger, replacing it with a fragile empathy. Sarah hadn't abandoned her out of selfishness, she'd been running from the collective, from whatever danger Project Starlight held. Hope, the artifact in her bag, the sphere that hummed faintly, was part of it, a key to her mother's past and maybe her redemption. Torres watched her closely, her expression unreadable. "Your mom was in deep, Harper." The collective wasn't just a club, they had funding, powerful backers. Some say they were working with tech pioneers, people like Musk's early mentors. When Elvis died, the project went dark, but it didn't disappear. Musk's visit stirred it up again. Emily's mind reeled. Musk, connected to a 70s experiment? It sounded insane, but the sphere's strange technology, the journal's diagrams, they weren't props from an Elvis movie. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, her voice sharp. "You show up out of nowhere, with files, saving my ass. What's your angle?" Torres's jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. "I'm a cop. I don't like secrets, especially ones that get people hurt. My dad was a Graceland guard in the 80s. He saw things, heard things, that never made sense. I've been chasing those ghosts ever since. You've got the journal, the artifact. I need you as much as you need me." Emily wanted to trust her, but Sarah's warning, "Trust no one," loomed large. Torres's story made sense, but her timing was too perfect. Before Emily could press further, her phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, her editor. "You're done, Harper. I warned you. Story's off. Get out of Memphis." The words hit like a slap. Climax, Lisa had been tough, but this was a death sentence for Emily's career. Was someone leaning on her? The collective? Musk's people? Emily's hands shook as she shoved the phone in her pocket, her resolve hardening. She wasn't quitting. Not when Sarah's letter had given her a purpose, not when the artifact hummed with secrets. Torres sensed her shift. "You're not backing down, are you?" "Not a chance," Emily said, clutching the folder. "I need to know what Project Starlight was, why my mom ran, and what Musk's after. You in?" Torres nodded, a spark of respect in her eyes. "Noon tomorrow, we dig deeper. I've got a contact who can decode that artifact. But Harper, watch your back. The collective's still out there. Emily left the precinct, the folder and artifact heavy in her bag. Jake was waiting in the lobby, his face etched with worry. You okay, Em? She hesitated, the sting of his betrayal still fresh. But his eyes, the same ones that had comforted her through Sarah's absence, held a sincerity she couldn't ignore. I'm trying, she said softly. But no more lies, Jake. I mean it. He nodded, his voice low. I swear. Let me make this right. They stepped into the Memphis night, the city's pulse a mix of blues and danger. Emily's apartment was a short drive away, but every shadow felt like a threat, the man with the crowbar, the collective, Lisa's warning. She touched the guitar pick around her neck, its star a reminder of Sarah's love, her sacrifice. The truth was out there, in the heart of Graceland, and Emily was closer than ever. But as she climbed into her car, a black sedan idled across the street, its windows too dark to see through. Her heart skipped, the weight of the artifact and Sarah's secrets pressing harder. The hope of understanding her mother was real, but so was the danger stalking her steps. The Memphis dawn painted the sky in streaks of pink and gold, but Emily Harper felt no warmth as she sat in her cramped apartment, the silver artifact on her kitchen table. Its intricate pattern seemed to shift under the morning light, and its faint hum, barely audible but constant, sent a shiver down her spine. The journal and blueprint lay beside it, their star and circle symbols tying her mother, Sarah, to Project Starlight and the mystery Elon Musk had uncovered at Graceland. Detective Maria Torres's files, stacked in a manila folder, hinted at a 1970s experiment that blended music and technology, but the artifact itself was something else, something alive, almost. Emily's heart raced with equal parts fear and determination. She was close to answers, but the threats were closer. Jake Carter sat across from her, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, his eyes heavy with guilt. Their reconciliation last night had been tentative, his promise to make things right a fragile bridge over his betrayal. Emily wanted to trust him, but Sarah's warning, trust no one, echoed in her mind, as did the memory of the man with the crowbar and the black sedan outside the precinct. Someone wanted the artifact, and they knew where to find her. You sure about meeting Torres today? Jake asked, his voice low. She's got her own agenda, Em. Those files, how do we know she's not playing us? Emily's fingers brushed the guitar pick around her neck, its star a mirror to the artifact's design. We don't, she admitted. But she's got answers I need. This thing, she nodded at the sphere, it's not just some Elvis relic. It's tech, Jake. Advanced. And my mom was part of it. Before Jake could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from Torres, noon, Warehouse District, 3rd and Vance. Bring the artifact. My contact can analyze it. Be discreet. Emily's stomach twisted. Climax, the Warehouse District was a maze of abandoned buildings and dark alleys, a perfect place for an ambush. But the promise of decoding the artifact was too tempting to ignore. She typed a quick reply, I'll be there. Jake leaned forward, his brow furrowed. You're not seriously going to some sketchy warehouse with that thing, are you? After last night? That guy with the crowbar wasn't messing around. I don't have a choice, Emily said, her voice sharp. My editors cut me off, someone's threatening me, and this artifact is my only lead to what my mom was hiding. I'm not stopping now. Jake's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Then I'm coming with you. No arguments. Emily met his gaze, the sincerity in his eyes softening her defenses. Okay, she said softly. But no more secrets, Jake. I need you to be all in. I am, he said, his voice steady. I owe you that much. Hope, the words were a small bomb, a flicker of trust reignited. Jake had been her anchor through Sarah's absence, and despite his mistake, he was here now, risking everything to help her. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was enough to keep going. They left the apartment, the artifact tucked in Emily's backpack, its hum a constant reminder of the stakes. The drive to the warehouse district was tense, Memphis's vibrant streets giving way to crumbling buildings and rusted chain-link fences. The air smelled of oil and decay, and the noon sun did little to dispel the unease settling over Emily. She parked a block from the meeting point, scanning the street for Torres's SUV, or the black sedan that had shadowed her last night. Torres was waiting outside a derelict warehouse, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. Beside her stood a wiry man in his 50s, glasses perched on his nose, a laptop bag slung over his shoulder. "This is Dr. Alan Reed," Torres said as Emily and Jake approached. Ex-NASA, worked on classified tech in the 80s. "He's seen stuff like your artifact before." Reed's eyes lit up as Emily pulled the sphere from her bag. "Remarkable," he muttered, turning it in his hands. "This is a resonance modulator. Experimental, from the 70s. Designed to manipulate sound waves at a frequency that affects human cognition. Project Starlight was trying to use music, Elvis's music, to unlock something. Emotions, maybe. Or more." Emily's heart skipped. "My mom was part of it. Sarah Harper. She left notes in a journal, said it was dangerous." Reed's expression darkened. She was right. The Starlight Collective had big dreams, but their backers, private investors, maybe government, wanted control. When Elvis died, the project collapsed, but the tech didn't. Someone's been guarding it ever since. Torres cut in, her voice urgent. "Musk's team was sniffing around for this. My sources say he's trying to reverse engineer it for his neural tech projects. That's why people are after you, Harper. This sphere could be worth billions." Emily's mind reeled. Musk, neural tech, her mother's involvement, it was all connected, and the artifact was the key. But before she could ask more, tires screeched nearby. A black van roared into the alley, doors sliding open to reveal three figures in dark coats, their faces masked. Climax, one held a gun, its barrel glinting in the sunlight. "Get down!" Torres shouted, drawing her own weapon. Jake pulled Emily behind a dumpster, the artifact clutched to her chest. Gunshots rang out, pinging off the warehouse's metal walls. Reed scrambled for cover, his laptop bag abandoned in the dirt. Emily's heart pounded, the sphere's hum louder now, almost a pulse. "They're after this," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We can't let them have it." Torres fired back, her shots precise but outnumbered. "We need to move," she yelled. "There's a back exit, go." They sprinted through the warehouse, dodging crates and rusted machinery. The air was thick with dust, the smell of oil choking Emily's lungs. The masked figures pursued, their footsteps heavy and relentless. Jake led the way, kicking open a rusted door that spilled them into another alley. Torres covered their retreat, her gun keeping the attackers at bay. They reached Emily's car, piling in as the van screeched around the corner. Torres took the wheel, her knuckles white as she floored it through Memphis's backstreets. Emily clutched the artifact, its warmth unnerving. The journal's words, "The heart sings," echoed in her mind, a clue to its power and her mother's sacrifice. "We're clear," Torres said finally, pulling into a quiet lot near the Mississippi River. "But they won't stop. That sphere's too valuable." Emily nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we figure out what it does. And why my mom died protecting it." Jake touched her shoulder, his voice soft. "I'm here, Em. Whatever it takes." The gesture steadied her, a reminder of their shared history. Despite the danger, despite his betrayal, Jake's presence was a lifeline. She looked at Torres, then at Reed, who was shaken but intact. "What's next?" she asked. Torres's eyes were grim but determined. "We analyze that sphere. Reed's got a lab. But Harper, People are dying for this. You ready for what comes next? Emily nodded, the artifacts hum a call to action. The truth about Sarah, about Project Starlight, was within reach, but so was the danger. The Mississippi River glinted under the late afternoon sun, its muddy waters a stark contrast to the storm brewing in Emily Harper's chest. She sat in the back seat of Detective Maria Torres's SUV, the silver artifact humming faintly in her backpack, its intricate patterns a constant reminder of the danger trailing her. The journal and blueprint, tucked beside it, held clues to Project Starlight, a 1970s experiment tied to her mother, Sarah, and possibly Elon Musk's recent discovery at Graceland. Jake Carter sat beside her, his silence heavy with the weight of their fragile reconciliation. The black van that had chased them from the warehouse district was gone, but Emily knew the shadowy group wasn't far behind. Torres gripped the wheel, her eyes flicking to the rear-view mirror. Reed's lab is on the outskirts, near an old industrial park, she said, her voice steady but tense. He can analyze that sphere, figure out what it does. But we're not safe yet. Those guys in the van. They're not amateurs. Emily nodded, her fingers brushing the guitar pick around her neck. Sarah's note in the journal, "The heart sings," echoed in her mind, a cryptic clue to the artifact's power. Dr. Alan Reed, the ex-NASA scientist, had called it a resonance modulator, something meant to manipulate emotions through sound. If Musk was after it, it could be worth billions, and dangerous enough to kill 4. Climax, the thought sent a chill through her, but the need to understand Sarah's sacrifice drove her forward. Jake shifted, his voice low. You sure about this? That thing in your bag, it's like a magnet for trouble. Maybe we should lay low. No, Emily said, her tone sharp. My mom gave up everything for this. I need to know why. And if Musk's involved, it's bigger than us. We can't stop now. Torres glanced back, a flicker of respect in her eyes. You've got guts, Harper. But guts won't stop bullets. Stay sharp. The SUV wound through Memphis's gritty outskirts, where abandoned factories and rusted silos loomed like ghosts of the city's past. The industrial park was a maze of crumbling warehouses, their windows shattered, their walls tagged with graffiti. Torres pulled into a lot behind a nondescript building, its faded sign reading Reed Tech Solutions. Dr. Reed was waiting at a side door, his glasses glinting as he waved them inside. The lab was a cluttered mix of old and new, oscilloscopes and circuit boards stacked alongside dusty Elvis records. Reed took the artifact, his hands trembling with excitement. This is extraordinary, he said, placing it under a scanner. The resonance modulator was Starlight's crown jewel. They believed it could amplify emotions, even influence thoughts, through specific frequencies. Elvis was their muse, his voice was the key. Emily's heart raced. My mom was part of it. Why would she risk everything for this? Reed's expression softened. The collective thought they could change the world, use music to heal, to unite. But their backers had other plans. Control, manipulation. When Elvis died, the project imploded, and the tech was hidden. Your mom must have known too much. The scanner beeped, displaying a waveform that pulsed in sync with the artifact's hum. Reed's eyes widened. It's active. This could be what Musk wants, a bridge to his neural tech, like Neuralink. Imagine controlling emotions on a global scale. Before Emily could process the implications, Torres's radio crackled. Unit 12, report of suspicious activity at 3rd and Vance. Black van, armed suspects. Her face hardened. They're tracking us. Emily's stomach dropped. Climax, the shadowy group had found them, faster than she'd feared. She clutched her backpack, the artifacts hum louder now, almost urgent. We need to move, she said, her voice steady despite the panic rising in her chest. Reed grabbed a USB drive with the scan data. This is all I've got for now. The artifact's code is complex, it'll take time to crack. Get somewhere safe. Torres led them to a back exit, but as they stepped into the alley, headlights pierced the dusk. The black van screeched to a stop, blocking their path. 3 figures emerged, their guns drawn, faces masked. "Hand over the sphere, Harper," one growled, his voice chillingly familiar, the man from the basement. Jake stepped in front of Emily, his fists clenched. "You're not getting it," he said, his voice shaking but defiant. Torres drew her gun, her stance steady. "Back off, or I drop you." The leader laughed, raising his weapon. "You're out of your league, cop." The standoff was a heartbeat from exploding, but Emily's eyes caught a flicker of movement, a delivery truck turning into the alley. "Hope, now," she shouted, shoving Jake and Torres behind a stack of crates. The truck's headlights blinded the attackers, giving them a split-second advantage. Torres fired a warning shot, scattering the men, and Emily sprinted for the SUV, Jake and Torres on her heels. They piled in, Torres flooring the gas as bullets pinged off the vehicle's frame. The van gave chase, its engine roaring through the narrow streets. Emily clutched the artifact, its hum vibrating through her bones. "Where do we go?" she yelled, her voice nearly lost in the chaos. "Somewhere they won't look," Torres said, weaving through traffic. "There's a safe house near the river. We can regroup, figure out our next move." The chase tore through Memphis's backstreets, past dive bars and abandoned lots, the city's pulse a frantic beat. Emily's mind raced, Sarah's sacrifice, the artifact's power, Musk's ambitions. The journal's notes about resonance and Elvis's voice swirled in her head, a puzzle she was desperate to solve. Jake reached for her hand, his touch grounding her. "We're in this together, Em," he said softly. "I'm not letting you down again." His words were a lifeline, a reminder of their shared history. Despite his betrayal, Jake was risking his life for her now. She squeezed his hand, a silent acknowledgement, but the van's headlights in the rearview mirror pulled her back to the danger. Torres took a sharp turn, losing the van in a maze of alleys. They reached the safe house, a rundown cabin by the Mississippi, its windows boarded up. Inside, the air was stale, but it was shelter. Emily set the artifact on a table, its hum softer now, almost soothing. Torres locked the door, her gun still drawn. "We're clear for now," she said. "But they'll keep coming. That sphere's too valuable." Emily nodded, her resolve hardening. "Then we figure out what it does. And why my mom thought it was worth everything." Reed, shaken but focused, plugged the USB drive into a laptop. "I'll start decoding the scan data. If we can crack its frequency, we'll know what we're dealing with." As Reed worked, Emily opened the journal, her mother's handwriting a painful anchor. The truth about Project Starlight was unraveling, but so was the danger. The artifact was a key, to Sarah's past, to Musk's plans, to a power that could change the world. But as the river lapped outside, Emily felt the weight of the chase, the shadows closing in. The safe house by the Mississippi River was a crumbling refuge, its boarded windows letting in slivers of moonlight that danced across the dusty floor. Emily Harper sat at a rickety table, the silver artifact glowing faintly in her hands, its hum a soft pulse that seemed to sync with her heartbeat. The journal and blueprint lay open beside her, their star-and-circle symbols a haunting link to her mother, Sarah, and the mysterious Project Starlight. Detective Maria Torres stood guard by the door, her gun drawn, while Jake Carter paced nervously, his eyes darting to the shadows outside. Dr. Alan Reed hunched over his laptop, decoding the artifact's scan data, his fingers trembling with excitement and fear. The black van's pursuit had shaken them, but Emily knew the shadowy group, the Starlight Collective, wasn't far behind. The artifact's hum grew louder, its patterns shifting like liquid silver. Emily's mind raced with the journal's cryptic notes, "The Heart Sings," written in Sarah's handwriting, and references to Elvis Presley's voice as a key to Project Starlight. Dr. Reed's words echoed, resonance modulator, manipulating emotions through sound. Was this what Elon Musk had found at Graceland? A technology so powerful it could reshape how the world saw Elvis's legacy? Emily's heart ached with the weight of her mother's sacrifice, the guitar pick around her neck a constant reminder of the questions she'd carried for 20 years. Reed looked up from his laptop, his glasses reflecting the screen's glow. "I've got something," he said, his voice hushed. "The artifact's frequency, it's tuned to a specific vocal range, one that matches Elvis's voice. The collective believed his music could unlock human potential, amplify emotions, even alter consciousness. This sphere was their prototype, meant to broadcast that power globally." Emily's breath caught. Climax, a secret Elvis project, hidden for decades, tied to her mother's disappearance. The implications were staggering, not just a lost album, but a technology that could change minds, hearts, maybe even history. "Why would my mom risk everything for this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Before Reed could answer, a soft knock came at the door. Torres tensed, her gun raised, but the knock was deliberate, 3 slow taps, then 2 fast. "That's not them," she muttered, lowering her weapon. She cracked the door open, and Emily's world tilted. A woman stepped inside, her hair streaked with gray but her face unmistakable, Sarah Harper. Emily's mother. Her eyes, once bright with music, were weary but fierce, and they locked onto Emily with a mix of love and guilt. "Hope," Emily froze, the artifact slipping from her hands onto the table, its hum fading to a whisper. 20 years of anger, pain, and unanswered questions surged to the surface, choking her. "Emily," Sarah said softly, her voice cracking. "I never wanted you to find me like this." The room spun. Emily's legs wobbled, and Jake caught her arm, steadying her. "Mom," she whispered, the word foreign on her tongue. "You're alive." Sarah nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I had to hide, Em. The collective, they were after the artifact, after Starlight. They threatened you. Leaving was the only way to keep you safe." Emily's chest tightened, a sob rising in her throat. All those years, she'd thought Sarah abandoned her out of selfishness, but now the truth was unraveling. "Why didn't you tell me?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "You left me with a note and a pic. I was 12, Mom. I needed you." Sarah stepped closer, her hands trembling. "I know, baby. I thought I could protect you by staying away. The collective, they're ruthless. They wanted the sphere, wanted to weaponize it. I couldn't let them find you. I hid, kept moving, kept the truth buried. But when I heard Musk was at Graceland, I knew it was only a matter of time." Emily's anger clashed with empathy, tears streaming down her face. Sarah's words echoed the letter, "I left to keep you safe," and the pain of those lost years mingled with the hope of understanding. She wanted to scream, to push Sarah away, but the love she buried was stronger. She stepped forward, and Sarah pulled her into a hug, their sobs mingling in the quiet room. Hope, the guitar pick pressed against Emily's chest, a bridge between past and present, a symbol of their fractured bond mending. Jake watched silently, his eyes soft with relief, while Torres kept her gaze on the door, giving them space. Reed cleared his throat, breaking the moment. "Sarah, you worked on Starlight. What was it really for?" Sarah pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Elvis wanted to share it, use his music to heal, to connect people. The collective started with good intentions, but their backers saw dollar signs, power. When Elvis died, they buried the project, but the tech survived. The sphere, it's the last piece. Musk wants it for his neural tech, to control minds, not heal them." Emily's heart sank. Climax, the artifact wasn't just a relic, it was a weapon in the wrong hands. Musk's discovery had unleashed a hunt, and she was caught in the crosshairs. "Why didn't you destroy it?" she asked, her voice raw. Sarah's face hardened. "I tried. But it's tied to Elvis's legacy, to what he believed in. Destroying it felt like destroying him. I hid it instead, left clues for you, in case I didn't make it. The weight of Sarah's words settled over Emily. Her mother hadn't just run, she'd sacrificed everything to protect a dream, to protect her. The reconciliation was a bomb, but the danger was far from over. The collective was still out there, and the artifact's hum was a beacon calling them closer. Torres's radio crackled, shattering the moment. Unit Hawkins, Code 3, suspicious activity at Riverfront Drive. Armed suspects. Her face paled. They're here. Before Emily could react, the door exploded inward, wood splintering as three masked figures stormed in, guns drawn. Give us the sphere, the leader barked, his voice chillingly familiar, the man from the basement, the warehouse. Emily clutched the artifact, her mother's hand on her shoulder a grounding force. The safe house was no longer safe, and the truth about Sarah came with a price. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story's heart is breaking open. What's one moment that brought you closer to someone you thought you'd lost? The safe house by the Mississippi River trembled as the door splintered, the air thick with dust and the acrid scent of gunpowder. Emily Harper clutched the silver artifact, its hum a frantic pulse against her chest, as three masked figures stormed in, their guns glinting in the moonlight. The Starlight Collective had found them, their pursuit relentless, driven by the power of Project Starlight's resonance modulator. Jake Carter shoved Emily behind a table, his eyes fierce with determination. Detective Maria Torres fired a warning shot, the crack echoing off the cabin's walls, while Sarah Harper, Emily's mother, stood beside her, her presence a lifeline after 20 years apart. The journal and blueprint, tucked in Emily's backpack, held the truth about Elvis Presley's secret project, but now that truth was a target. Give us the sphere, Harper, the leader barked, his voice cold and familiar, the man from the basement, the warehouse, the alley. His scarf was gone, revealing a scarred face and eyes that burned with purpose. You can't stop what's coming. Emily's heart pounded, the artifact's hum sinking with her fear. Climax, this was it, the moment where everything converged, her mother's sacrifice, Musk's discovery, the collective's desperation. She glanced at Sarah, whose tear-streaked face mirrored her own resolve. You're not getting it, Emily said, her voice steady despite the chaos. This ends tonight. The leader raised his gun, but Torres moved faster, diving for cover and returning fire. Bullets tore through the cabin, splintering wood and shattering glass. Jake grabbed a chair, hurling it at one of the attackers, giving Emily and Sarah a chance to duck behind a couch. Dr. Alan Reed, the ex-NASA scientist, cowered in a corner, clutching his laptop with the artifact's scanned data. The safe house was a battlefield, and Emily knew they couldn't hold out long. We need to get to Graceland, Sarah whispered, her hand gripping Emily's. The artifact belongs there, in the heart. It's the only way to stop them. Emily nodded, her mother's words igniting a spark of hope. Hope, Sarah's return had mended a piece of her broken heart, and now their shared purpose felt like a shield. The heart of Graceland, the room on the blueprint, was where this had to end. But getting there meant surviving this ambush and outrunning the collective. Torres shouted over the gunfire, there's a back exit to the riverbank. Move. She laid down cover fire, her shots precise, forcing the attackers to duck. Emily grabbed her backpack, the artifact and journal inside, and pulled Sarah toward the exit. Jake helped Reed to his feet, and the group stumbled out into the humid Memphis night, the river's dark waters glinting under the stars. The attackers pursued, their boots pounding the earth. Emily's lungs burned as they sprinted along the riverbank, the artifact's hum a constant reminder of what was at stake. Torres led them to a narrow path, weaving through reeds and mud until they reached a dirt road where her SUV waited. They piled in, the engine roaring to life as the black van appeared in the distance, its headlights cutting through the dusk. Graceland's 10 minutes away, Torres said, flooring the gas. If we can get to the basement, we can lock it down. Security's tight, but I've got a badge. Emily clutched the artifact, her mind racing. "What do we do with it?" she asked Sarah, her voice barely audible over the engine. "You said it belongs in the heart. What does that mean?" Sarah's eyes were fierce, her voice steady despite the chaos. "The heart of Graceland is a chamber Elvis built, a sanctuary for starlight. The artifact was meant to stay there, protected, not weaponized. If we activate it in the chamber, it'll resonate with his music, his intent. It'll neutralize its power as a weapon." The idea was wild, but Emily trusted her mother's conviction. The journal's notes about resonance, Elvis's voice, and the collective's greed all pointed to this. If Musk wanted the artifact for his neural tech, locking it in Graceland was their only shot to keep it safe. The SUV screeched onto Elvis Presley Boulevard, Graceland's white columns looming ahead like a fortress. The van was gaining, its engine a low growl. Climax. As Torres swerved into the staff lot, a bullet shattered the rear window, glass spraying across the back seat. Emily ducked, shielding Sarah, her heart hammering. Jake cursed, grabbing Reed's laptop as it slid to the floor. "Inside, now!" Torres yelled, slamming the brakes. They tumbled out, sprinting for the staff entrance Jake had used before. He swiped his keycard, the door buzzing open just as the van skidded to a stop. The attackers poured out, guns blazing, but Torres fired back, buying them time to slip inside. The mansion's corridors were a maze of shadows, the air thick with the scent of polish and history. Jake led them to the basement stairs, his familiarity with Graceland their only advantage. Emily's flashlight caught the star and circle symbols etched into the walls, guiding them to the hidden chamber, the heart of Graceland. The door was heavy, carved with the same symbol, and it opened with a groan, revealing the circular room they'd found before, now bathed in a faint glow from the shelves of strange devices. Sarah moved to the pedestal in the center, her hand steady as she took the artifact from Emily. "This is it," she said, placing the sphere in a recessed slot. The hum intensified, vibrating through the room, and the devices on the shelves flickered to life, their lights pulsing in sync. A soft melody began to play, Elvis's voice, "Love Me Tender," faint but unmistakable, filling the chamber with warmth. "It's working," Sarah whispered, tears in her eyes. This is what he wanted, music to heal, not control. The moment was electric, a testament to Elvis's dream and Sarah's sacrifice. But the door behind them shuddered, the attackers' shouts growing closer. Climax, Emily's heart sank, they'd reached the heart, but the collective wasn't giving up. Torres barricaded the door with a crate, her gun ready, while Jake stood by Emily, his presence a quiet strength. "We hold them off," Torres said, her voice fierce. "Harper, you and Sarah finish this. Lock the artifact down." Emily nodded, her hand on Sarah's shoulder. Together, they followed the journal's instructions, adjusting the pedestal's dials to amplify the resonance. The melody grew louder, Elvis's voice weaving through the air, and the artifact's hum stabilized, its patterns glowing softly. The chamber felt alive, a sanctuary of hope amid the chaos. The door splintered, and the scarred leader burst in, his gun trained on Emily. "You can't stop us," he snarled. "The sphere's ours." Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. "It's over. The heart's singing. You can't weaponize it now." The leader hesitated, the melody seeming to soften his resolve. Torres seized the moment, tackling him to the ground, her cuffs snapping around his wrists. The other attackers faltered, disoriented by the music, and Jake and Reed helped subdue them, the chamber's resonance a shield of its own. As the dust settled, Emily looked at Sarah, their hands clasped. The artifact was safe, its power locked in Graceland's heart, a testament to Elvis's legacy and Sarah's love. The collective was defeated, at least for now, and Emily felt a weight lift, a reconciliation not just with her mother, but with her own past. The morning sun bathed Graceland in a golden glow, its white columns standing like sentinels over a legacy reborn. Emily Harper stood on the mansion's lawn, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and the faint hum of tourists arriving for the day's tours. The silver artifact, now secured in the hidden chamber, the heart of Graceland, had been neutralized, its resonance tied to Elvis Presley's music rather than the Starlight Collective's ambitions. The journal and blueprint were safe in her backpack, their secrets no longer a threat but a testament to her mother's sacrifice. Sarah Harper stood beside her, their hands clasped, a fragile bond rebuilt after 20 years of pain. Detective Maria Torres and Jake Carter flanked them, their faces weary but relieved, while Dr. Alan Reed was already on a call with authorities, ensuring the captured collective members faced justice. Emily's heart was a tangle of emotions, relief, gratitude, and a quiet ache for the years lost. The showdown in the chamber had been a crucible, forging her trust in Sarah, Jake, and even Torres. But now, as the dust settled, the weight of what they'd uncovered pressed on her. Project Starlight, a dream to heal through music, had been Elvis's secret hope, twisted by greed until Sarah hid it to protect Emily. The artifact's power, now locked in Graceland, could never be weaponized, not by the collective, not by Elon Musk. Climax, yet the truth was bigger than them all, and Emily knew it was time to share it with the world. Sarah squeezed her hand, her voice soft. "You did it, Em. You found the heart." Elvis would have been proud. Emily's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. "You did, too, Mom. You kept it safe all those years. I wish you'd told me." Sarah's smile was bittersweet. "I wanted to. But the collective, they'd have come for you. Leaving was the hardest thing I ever did." The words were a balm, soothing the raw edges of Emily's anger. She'd spent decades hating Sarah, but now, standing on Graceland's lawn, she saw her mother's sacrifice for what it was: love, fierce and unflinching. Hope, forgiveness wasn't easy, but it was real, a quiet strength that steadied her. She touched the guitar pick around her neck, its star design no longer a wound but a symbol of their shared journey. Torres approached, her badge glinting in the sunlight. "The feds are taking over," she said, her voice crisp but warm. "The collective's done, at least this cell. Reed's data proves the artifact's safe in the chamber. But Harper, you've got a story to tell. The world needs to know what Elvis was really trying to do." Emily nodded, her resolve hardening. Her editor, Lisa, had tried to shut her down, but Emily had the proof now: the journal, the blueprint, Sarah's testimony. She could write the exposé of a lifetime, not just to save her career but to honor Elvis's dream and her mother's courage. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady. "But I need to make sure it's done right." Jake stepped closer, his eyes soft with pride. "You've got this, Em. You always did." His words stirred a warmth in her chest, mending the cracks left by his betrayal. Jake had risked everything to stand with her, and though trust would take time, their bond was stronger for it. "Thanks," she said, offering a small smile. "For sticking with me." He grinned, the boyish charm she remembered from their Texas days shining through. "Couldn't let you have all the fun." As they walked toward the mansion, Emily's phone buzzed with a text from Lisa: "Heard you're still in Memphis. You've got one shot, Harper. Deliver, or you're out." Climax, the message was a jolt, a reminder of the stakes. Lisa's warnings had been laced with fear, maybe pressure from the collective or someone higher up. But Emily wasn't backing down. She'd write the story, her way, the truth's way. Inside Graceland, the staff had been briefed, the chamber sealed under federal oversight. Emily stood in the jungle room, its shag carpet and exotic decor a vivid contrast to the sterile lab below. Tourists milled about, unaware of the battle fought in the basement, but Emily felt the weight of history in every corner. Elvis's voice played softly over the speakers, always on my mind, and it felt like a message, a reminder of what Project Starlight could have been. She opened the journal one last time, her mother's handwriting a lifeline. A final note read, "The truth heals, even when it hurts." Emily's chest swelled with purpose. The story wasn't just about a lost technology or Musk's ambitions. It was about love, sacrifice, and the power of music to connect. She'd write it for Sarah, for Elvis, for herself. Later that day, Emily sat at a Memphis cafe, her laptop open, the first lines of her exposé taking shape. Elvis Presley's legacy is more than rock and roll. Hidden in Graceland's heart is a dream to heal the world through music, a dream that almost became a weapon. The words flowed, each one a step toward peace. Sarah sat across from her, sipping coffee, her presence a quiet anchor. They'd lost years, but they had time now, to rebuild, to understand. Torres joined them, her expression lighter than Emily had ever seen. "The feds are calling it a win," she said. "The collective's leaders are in custody, and the artifacts locked down. You did good, Harper." Emily smiled, a weight lifting. "We did good." As the sun set, casting Memphis in a warm glow, Emily felt a sense of closure. Her career was back on track, her mother was no longer a ghost, and Elvis's legacy was safe. The truth had healed her, just as Sarah's note promised. But a small part of her wondered about Musk. What had he known, and why had he walked away? The question lingered, a shadow on the horizon. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story's finding its heart. What's one truth that set you free? The Memphis morning buzzed with energy, the city's pulse quickened by the bombshell Emily Harper had unleashed. Her exposé, published in the Memphis Commercial Appeal and syndicated nationwide, had set the world ablaze. Elvis Presley's secret dream, the hidden technology of Graceland. The article detailed Project Starlight, a 1970s experiment to heal through music, the Starlight Collective's corruption of that dream, and the silver artifact, now secured in Graceland's heart, that had nearly become a weapon. Emily stood outside the newspaper's office, the Mississippi River glinting in the distance, her mother, Sarah Harper, by her side. The guitar pick around her neck felt lighter, a symbol of reconciliation rather than loss. For the first time in years, Emily felt whole. The media frenzy was relentless. Climax, news vans clogged downtown Memphis, reporters shouting questions as tourists flocked to Graceland, drawn by the revelation that Elvis had been more than a rock star, a visionary who'd tried to change the world. Social media platforms like X exploded with hashtags, hashtag Graceland Secrets, hashtag Elvis Starlight, hashtag Musk Mystery. Some called it a hoax, others a conspiracy, but the journal's scans and Sarah's testimony, included in Emily's article, silenced most skeptics. The world was rewriting Elvis's legacy, and Emily was at the center of it. Sarah squeezed her hand, her eyes bright with pride. "You did it, Em. You told the truth, and you made it matter." Emily's throat tightened. "We did it, Mom. You kept the secret safe. I just brought it to light." The reconciliation with Sarah had been a journey of its own, one that had healed wounds Emily thought would never close. Her mother's sacrifice, leaving to protect her from the collective, had been a heavy price, but now they had a chance to rebuild. The exposé wasn't just a career saver, it was a tribute to Sarah's courage, to Elvis's dream, to the love that had endured despite the years apart. Hope. Inside the newspaper office, Emily's editor, Lisa, waited, her usual scowl replaced by a rare smile. "You pulled it off, Harper," she said, tossing a copy of the paper on her desk. "Circulation's through the roof, and every major outlet's begging for an interview. You're back, kid. Don't screw it up." Emily grinned, the weight of Lisa's earlier threats, "Drop it, Harper," fading like a bad dream. Lisa had been under pressure, likely from the collective's influence, but Emily's persistence had won out. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, her voice steady. "This is just the start." Lisa nodded, a spark of respect in her eyes. "Good. Now get out there and handle the vultures. They're eating this up." Outside, Emily faced a sea of microphones and cameras, the questions coming fast. Did Elon Musk know about the artifact? Is the collective still active? What's next for Graceland? She answered with poise, sticking to the truth while protecting the chamber's exact location. The artifact was safe, its power locked in Elvis's music, a secret now shared with the world but untouchable by greed. A cryptic post on X from Elon Musk himself fueled the fire. Graceland holds more than memories. Starlight was a spark. The future sings. The message was vague, classic Musk, neither confirming nor denying his role. Had he been chasing the artifact for Neuralink, as Dr. Reed suspected, or was he simply a curious billionaire drawn to Elvis's vision? Emily didn't know, but the post sent X into a frenzy, with theories ranging from time travel to alien tech. She shook her head, a wry smile tugging at her lips. Musk was a puzzle she'd leave for another day. Jake Carter joined her outside, his Graceland polo swapped for a casual t-shirt, his boyish grin a reminder of their Texas roots. "You're famous now, Em," he teased, nudging her shoulder. "Gonna ditch me for the talk show circuit?" Emily laughed, the sound freer than it had been in years. "Not a chance. You're stuck with me." Jake's betrayal, taking money to keep quiet about Musk's visit, had tested their friendship, but his loyalty in the final stand had rebuilt it stronger. He'd risked everything to protect her, and that meant more than words could say. "What's next for you?" she asked. Jake shrugged, his eyes on Graceland's distant silhouette. "I'm staying on as a guide, but I'm working with management to protect the chamber. No more secrets, just Elvis's legacy, the way it should be." His words were a promise, a commitment to the truth they'd fought for. Emily felt a surge of pride, not just for Jake but for the team they'd become. Detective Maria Torres approached, her badge glinting as she waded through the reporters. "Nice work, Harper," she said, her voice warm. "The feds are dismantling what's left of the collective. Reed's data's helping, and Graceland's under protection. You stirred up a hornet's nest, but it was worth it." Emily nodded, gratitude swelling in her chest. Torres had been a wild card, her motives unclear at first, but her courage had saved them. "What about you?" Emily asked. "Back to chasing ghosts?" Torres smirked. "Always. But this one's done. I'm keeping an eye on Graceland, making sure no one else tries to dig where they shouldn't." The trio stood together, a quiet moment amid the chaos, their shared victory a bond forged in fire. The media storm was a climax of its own, but it was tempered by the hope of a new beginning, for Emily's career, for Sarah's redemption, for Elvis's legacy. The world was listening, and the truth had set them free. Back at her apartment that evening, Emily opened her laptop, the glow illuminating her small kitchen. Emails flooded her inbox, interview requests, book deals, even a message from a documentary producer. Her career, once on the brink, was now a beacon of possibility. She typed a quick reply to Lisa, confirming a follow-up piece on the collective's origins, then leaned back, her eyes drifting to a photo on the shelf, her and Sarah at a Texas fair, laughing under a Ferris wheel. The memory no longer stung, it was a promise of more to come. Sarah sat across from her, sipping tea, her presence a quiet comfort. "What's next for you, Em?" she asked, her voice soft. Emily smiled, touching the guitar pick. "I'm going to keep telling stories, truths that matter. And I'm going to do it with you." Sarah's eyes shimmered with tears, and they shared a look that said more than words could. The future was uncertain, but it was theirs to shape. As night fell, Memphis glowed with life, its blues and neon a soundtrack to Emily's triumph. Graceland stood as a symbol of dreams reclaimed, its secrets now a gift to the world. But Musk's cryptic post lingered in Emily's mind, a hint that the story wasn't fully told. Climax, for now, though, she'd won, her career, her mother, her truth. The Memphis sunset cast a warm glow over Graceland, its white columns and sprawling lawn bathed in hues of orange and pink. Emily Harper stood at the edge of the meditation garden, where Elvis Presley's grave lay surrounded by flowers and tributes from fans. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and the soft hum of distant traffic, a quiet contrast to the media storm that had gripped the city for weeks. Her exposé on Project Starlight had reshaped Elvis's legacy, revealing his dream to heal through music and exposing the Starlight Collective's corruption. The silver artifact, now secured in Graceland's hidden chamber, was safe, its power locked in the heart of the mansion. Emily's career was soaring, her bond with her mother, Sarah, was healing, and yet, standing here, she felt a bittersweet pull, a chapter closing, a new one beginning. Sarah stood beside her, her gray-streaked hair catching the light, her eyes soft with a peace Emily hadn't seen before. Jake Carter and Detective Maria Torres waited near the mansion's entrance, giving Emily and Sarah this moment. The guitar pick around Emily's neck, its star design a mirror to the artifact's symbol, felt like a talisman, a reminder of the journey that had brought her here. The world knew the truth now, but this visit was personal, a farewell to the pain of the past and a tribute to those who'd shaped her. "I used to dream of bringing you here," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "When you were little, I'd tell you stories about Graceland, about Elvis's heart. I never thought we'd stand here together." Emily's throat tightened, tears pricking her eyes. "You kept it safe, Mom. All those years, you carried that secret for me, for him. I'm proud of you." Sarah's smile was radiant, a mirror to the young singer in the old photos. "And I'm proud of you, Em. You didn't just find the truth, you gave it a voice." The words were a balm, sealing the reconciliation that had begun in the safe house. Emily had forgiven Sarah, not just for leaving but for the love that had driven her to do it. Their bond, once shattered, was now a foundation for the future. Hope, Emily reached into her pocket, pulling out a small, handwritten note she'd prepared, a tribute to Elvis and Sarah, a promise to carry their dream forward. She knelt by the grave, placing it among the flowers, its words simple but heartfelt, "For Elvis and Sarah, your music heals. Always." As she stood, the weight of her journey settled into a quiet strength. Her exposé had won awards, secured her career, and sparked a global conversation about music's power. The collective was dismantled, its leaders behind bars, thanks to Torres's work and Dr. Alan Reed's data. Jake was leading efforts to protect Graceland's legacy, ensuring the chamber remained a sanctuary, not a target. Emily's life, once on the brink, was now a beacon of possibility. A new beginning built on truth. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, a shadow flickered in Emily's mind. Elon Musk's cryptic X post, "The future sings," had hinted at more than he'd let on. The media had speculated wildly, but no one knew what Musk had truly found at Graceland or why he'd walked away. Emily had assumed the artifact was the end of it, but a nagging instinct told her otherwise. Climax, she pushed the thought aside, focusing on the moment, but the unease lingered, a whisper of something unfinished. Jake approached, his grin boyish despite the lines of fatigue on his face. "You ready to head out, Em?" The reporters are still circling, but Torres scared most of them off. Emily laughed, the sound light and free. "Yeah, let's go. I've got a follow-up piece to write, and I'm not letting Lisa hog all the credit." Torres joined them, her badge tucked away, her expression softer than usual. "You changed things, Harper," she said, a rare warmth in her voice. "Graceland's safe, and so's the city, for now. But don't get cocky. There's always another ghost to chase." Emily nodded, grateful for Torres's grit and Jake's loyalty. They'd been a team, forged in the heat of danger, and that bond would endure. As they walked toward the parking lot, the mansion's lights glowed behind them, a symbol of dreams preserved. Memphis hummed with life, blues notes drifting from Beale Street, the river's steady flow a reminder of time's passage. Emily felt at home, not just in the city but in herself. Back at her apartment, Emily opened her laptop, the glow illuminating her small kitchen. Emails from producers and publishers filled her inbox, but one message stood out, an anonymous sender, no subject line. Her heart skipped as she opened it. Starlight was only the beginning. Check the archives. The second key waits. Attached was a grainy photo of a document, stamped with the star and circle symbol and a single word, Aurora. Climax, Emily's breath caught. The archives? Another key. Musk's post flashed in her mind, its cryptic promise suddenly sharper. The artifact had been secured, but this hinted at a larger mystery, a sequel to the story she'd thought was finished. She leaned back, her pulse racing. The truth about Project Starlight had healed her, reunited her with Sarah, and honored Elvis's legacy. But this message suggested there was more, another secret buried in Graceland, or beyond. Emily touched the guitar pick, its star a call to action. She wasn't done chasing truths, not yet. Sarah sat across from her, sipping tea, her presence a quiet anchor. "You okay, Em?" she asked, sensing the shift. Emily smiled, a spark of determination in her eyes. "Yeah. Just thinking about what's next." The city glowed outside, its neon and blues a promise of stories untold. Emily closed her laptop, the anonymous message a seed planted for the future. For now, she'd savor this victory, her career, her mother, her peace. But the whisper of Aurora lingered, a challenge she'd face when the time was right. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story's closing one chapter, but the truth's still out there. What's one truth that changed your life?